Let's talk about the state of play that matters to the most people, not just the pod people. And for that, we have a special guest, President Trump's White House Director of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett. Kev, it's good to have you on.
Hey, Chris, it's good to see you.
So
yeah, it's good to be back on TV with you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good to have you, Kevin, and congratulations in your role, and good luck doing the work of the American people.
Thank you.
I hope you make good things happen for the majority.
That's what I'm shooting for. Yeah.
So, the bill, you say it's going to pass. Great. Let's talk about what's in it. I don't care about the politics of it. That's getting enough yip-yap, and that's not really your bailiwick. Specifically, you say you're going to get 3% growth out of this. To me, that sounds like the sell that we hear every time Republicans want to cut taxes, but it doesn't usually work out that way unless you include the pandemic payments. So why should people believe that this time it's going to work to give me a tax cut more than you give the working class?
So first, I'm about to talk about that, but I just want to commend economic PhD level point that you made in your opening dialogue, which is that the biggest mistake that people make in life is they ignore sunk costs and don't focus on the future. And that's what we're doing in the White House every day, especially today. Today, I met with Republican House leaders at lunch. The president met with them in the Oval talking about the bill. And the bottom line is that this is a bill that's ready for the next version of America, which is a lot of onshoring of activity, but also big, big tax cuts for the people who need them most. So we've got tax reductions for people who earn overtime. And I met with the president of the UAW in my office a week ago to talk about the hundreds of dollars a week for many people that's going to save. We're cutting taxes on Social Security people. I think one of the biggest tragedies of economic policy in America is that some people retire for Social Security, they don't have enough money, they want to go back to work, and then all that work that they get is taxed. If they make an extra dollar, they lose 50 cents, and they get taxed on the rest of it. And there's no tax on tips. And so all of this stuff is helping middle-class Americans get back to work, and that's really great for the economy. But also the big, beautiful bill has a lot of beautiful stuff in it that nobody's talking about, which is another one of your themes. And so one of the things I like the best is that for every baby, it's in the bill, every baby born in America, then the minute they're born, the government creates a $1,000 account, puts it into the stock market for them so that they've got it when they retire, and then they get to look at that account on their iPhone or their phone for the rest of their lives and see what America is doing for them. And I think that that kind of bill is exactly what we need right now. And we don't need, like, we've extended the tax cuts, which created all this manufacturing in the U.S., but we focused really on the middle class in this bill, and that's why it's going to probably pass tonight or early in the morning, and that's my intel from the meeting with the president today.
Look, I'm sure you're going to have better information on it than I do. Steve Bannon had said, and the president even echoed, kind of played with the idea of, yeah, it's time to tax the guys at the top so that we can free up more money for tax cuts for the middle and the majority. You're not doing that in this bill. Why?
Yeah, so the issue is that a lot of the people that are in the top bracket are small businesses that employ a lot of people. So, like the big corporations that you read about in the stock market every day, they employ fewer than half the people in America. Most of them are the people that you see when you walk down Main Street. And so the issue is that if you put a higher tax on them, then the people who are walking down Main Street and walking in to go to work at the shoe store or the drugstore, they lose their jobs. And so that's the thing that we're concerned about.
Small businesses. Thank you for the segue. They are an underreported casualty of the tariff situation, as you know. You know that bankruptcies, not just Chapter 7, individuals, or 13, but Chapter 11 businesses, we saw a big increase in February. They're saying they can't get things, they can't source things, they don't have the reserves of the deep pocket big corporations. Why aren't small businesses being exempted from tariffs where they can't source things at home?
Well, one of the things that we've seen happen is that, and this goes back to a point that I've been making, an economic point for the last few months, is that if we have a trade deficit with China for 10, 20, 30 years, then by, construction, what it means is that China has inelastic supply. They're just send it to us no matter what. And so if we put a tariff on them, then it doesn't affect prices. We just get revenue. And the thing is that if we look at the April data, and that's what you like us to do, Chris, I remember that just look at the data. In April, we got $20 billion in tariffs, and the consumer price index went way down, way down. And so the idea that the tariffs are going right through to consumers is not there. And the reason is because it's just economics, that the people who are giving us trade deficits year after year are sending us this stuff, like China's sending us this stuff as much as they can, because that's how they create political stability, by giving jobs to people who sell us their stuff. And if we put a tariff on it, they're going to keep selling us the stuff, because if those people lose their jobs, then China has a political problem, a serious political problem.
Well, look, I agree that there are different aspects to the issue and different implications to this taxation policy of tariffs. But, you know, Kevin, the other Hassetts in my life say, well, we haven't seen the price pass through yet because it's too soon. And you got to look at this 3-6 months from now about how it goes. And the fact that small businesses are already having trouble sourcing things is proof that you're going to have a real big problem down the road. And why isn't that something that you want to address?
Actually, I think the disruption is biggest now, don't you think? So right now, there's
politically in the
tariffs
markets,
and tariff revenue.
But I don't care about Wall Street. I care
but
about
also
Main Street.
People. No, I do too. But the point is that if the biggest disruption is that we've got all this revenue and no inflation, then when we start to create jobs, and think about this, right? We had a 20% increase in capital spending in the first quarter because of the tariffs. So 20%. And that happened after a 10% decline in the fourth quarter, I think in part because people were waiting to see what happens this year. But a 20% increase means that onshoring is happening and job creation is happening. The jobs numbers keep surprising even me on the upside. And so I think that the tariff policy that the president is proposing is onshoring stuff. And I think that my theory of why it's going so fast is that people have gotten so good at just-in-time inventory management and moving stuff around and using AI that stuff could come back to the U.S. way faster than anyone expected.
So you're not worried about what these small businessmen and women are telling you?
I'm worried about every single person that loses their business or loses their job. And that's why we put out a report that talked about what happens in this bill. And what happens in this bill, you go back to the 3% mention that you made a moment ago. What happens in this bill is that we believe, and this is based on models that we used in 2017 that turned out to be right up until COVID, that we're going to get 3% growth. If we get 3% growth out of this bill, it's not for sure that it's going to happen, but it's the science. If the world doesn't change in ways we don't expect, 3% means that the revenue for this bill is $4 trillion higher, which is about the cost of the bill. And meanwhile, we create millions and millions of jobs. We have the Council of Economic Advisors put out a report that said that real incomes will go up between $7,000 and $11,000. We said between 4 and 8 last time, and it went up 6.5 before COVID. And so I think these are models that have worked, and we believe that we're going to help the American people directly with the stuff we talked about before, the no tax on overtime, but indirectly as well, the way we did in 2017 by creating jobs here, demand for labor here, and wage growth here.
There's no question that we need to see the improvements on the labor side. And if it comes, it comes. I just remember the sale being the same. I just remember the realities a little different in terms of whether or not this paid for itself. And I'm not alone in this assessment, right? I mean, there are people who believe it's going to add to the deficit and the debt. You see different companies pulling back on their estimates because they think consumers are going to lock up. You saw what happened at the auction with the treasuries, right? That led to an increase in the yield because people have uncertainty. And there's this new proposition among the big shots called the Sell America trade, which is where people don't believe there's enough certainty and stability to be in business in our markets right now. And how do you fix that?
Well, first of all, if you sell America, you're going to lose. But the other thing, let's just think about this fact, and if you'd like, I can email the link to you, that if you look at what the revenue divided by GDP, which is what economists say is the best measure because there's ups and downs depending on GDP, before the tax bill of 2017, it was 17.1%. Then before this tax bill, right now, after all those tax cuts, which are still in place, it's 17.1%. And so the people that said that you're going to rip a hole in the deficit because of these tax cuts, they're exactly wrong. It's been disproven by the data.
But it went up the last time, Kev.
Create activity with lower taxes.
It wasn't on your watch, but
for the first year or two.
But the president borrowed like crazy the last time, not just the pandemic.
No, during COVID, but what happened was that there was so much capital spending in the first year or two that revenue went down because they were expensing the machines, and then revenue went way up, and that's why revenue today is the same share of GDP as it was before. And by the way, corporate revenue is about 50% higher, depends on how you measure it, than it was then. And everybody said you cut it from 35 to 21, it's going to go down. But if we bring a lot of activity here, then people make money here instead of abroad, and that's good for workers, and it's good for firms, and it's good for revenue.
Well, look, I'm not going to damn you with the past. And the pandemic is a big asterisk when you look at it. And Trump did something that is fiscal anathema to conservatives, right? He took the tax cut and increased spending. And that puts tremendous strain on the debt and the deficit last time around. This time around, we'll see. We'll see what gets done in this bill and what gets done with spending.
But spending.
I definitely think, Kevin, that I hope it works because we need it to, but I got to be a fair appraiser of it, whichever way it goes. And you're always welcome here to make the case.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris.
All right, Kevin Hassett, good luck in doing the work of the people. You're always welcome here to make the case, okay? Appreciate you doing it.
Thanks. Yeah, I will be. Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.